You are watching CIOTV by Enterprise IT World, a production of Accent Info Media.
Hello and welcome to CIOTV.live, a production of Accent Info Media. As you know that we have been speaking to the stakeholders, the thought leaders of technology world to understand about what's happening. Now I have Mr. Simon Jelley. He is Vice President and General Manager for Arctera. Simon doesn't require any introduction because he's a seasoned IT person leading backup Exec for a long time. Now with this new entity Arctera, he's also active and trying to make his presence felt in different markets, also in India. Simon, thank you very much for taking time out and coming here to take part in this conversation.
Oh, thank you, Sanjeev. Very glad to be here and really admire all the work you do. So really glad to be featured here and getting to speak with you today.
Simon, of course, I gave you a little bit of introduction of yourself, but if you can introduce yourself and let the audience know about what is your role in Arctera.
Yeah, so maybe just a little bit for the audience, number one, on who Arctera is. So Arctera recently separated from Veritas. Many will probably know Veritas as a data management company for 20 plus years. We have a large presence here in India in terms of the last 15 plus years in terms of developed data management solutions around data protection, data resiliency, and data compliance. And Arctera really separate to put focus on those areas, right? Data protection, data compliance, data resilience, and how do we help customers trust, access, and illuminate their data overall? My role specifically is to lead our data protection organization. So I'm the GM responsible for the product delivery, innovation, but also partnering with our channel and our sales force globally to really get them, very reliable, very simple, very unified data protection.
What led you to be there in technology? What led you to be in the product management, Simon?
Yeah, I love the space, right? Data management, there's always lots of challenges. It's always evolving as customers have moved from physical to virtual to cloud to SaaS. So what keeps me here maybe is the simpler answer, but it's just a constantly challenging environment and things changing. The two things that really kind of got me to where got me started on this journey, from a technology perspective, it was really down to people. My uncle was a massive influence as I was a kid. He actually worked for some very large banks as their technology CIO. And so I saw, he always interested me, like BBC Micros and Acorn Electrons, and then, things that were as a kid I got to play with thanks to him. And then, so that started me down the technology path. What really got me into product management was I joined an engineering company as an engineer, but I started to get involved with teaching. It was a startup where they asked me as one of the new engineers to start working with the channel partners. They had no go-to-market, so we had to go and educate people. So we worked a lot with the channel and starting to get then more closer to the end customer. Really, I was like, I don't want to just be an engineer in the background coding. I want to get closer to the customer, really be obsessed about how do we delight customers. And that's where I see product management role is. They're really that glue between the go-to-market team and the engineering delivery team. And I love that. That's where I started and became a GM from really working in that product management role. I love it. It's delighting customers is really what it's about at the end of the day.
Excellent, Simon. Simon, in the today's context, cybersecurity challenges, technology complexities, those are really the headache for the customers, especially the stakeholders, the CIOs and CISOs. And when it comes to backup and DR, these are very critical part to
Yes.
any organization growth also. So what are the key trends you are seeing from the BCP perspective?
Yeah, so I think there's still the overriding trend that's really been a challenge for a while is organizations really have to accept that it isn't if you're going to get attacked, it's when it's going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. And really adopt the point that it is going to happen to us as an organization. And I think largely organizations are still adapting. We've surveyed regularly with customers about their readiness, and over 50% of organizations still can't commit to they could recover from a ransomware attack. So how do they do that? The compounding issue with being able to do that well, as you mentioned at the start, is one, there's more regulation now coming in, like the US government, India have put directly regulations on customers to show companies to show they can recover. So they're being held more compliant to it, but also they're facing recession times where they don't necessarily want to spend as much money on those things. So we see backup as plays a critical role in being able to provide that unified single copy that you can go to of the data should it happen. We find that partnering with security organizations as to how do you build proactive responses in is critical as well. But more importantly, the trend is towards simplicity, because again, organizations are trying to do more with less ultimately. So they're trying to unify their protection, unify their ransomware approach, and that's very much the approach that we're taking as Arctera and with Backup Exec.
You have been a great learner, you have been great observer of this market, this technology, backup, data protection, and security also.
Yeah.
So how do you see this evolution happening? Because data protection was not part of the backup always, DR
Right.
always. So maybe after COVID, data protection gained momentum. People started speaking about that DR and backup has got to do with this data protection, the cyber security
Cyber
part.
recovery
So
and
how do you see
cybersecurity.
this evolution happening?
Yeah, look, I think the data protection business today is the cybersecurity business. I think they are one and the same in terms of, and again, to your point, it's evolved from just purely being about providing a backup, but everyone's at last understood it's backup and recovery, right? So I think the big shift that's happened in the last 5 to 10 years is really this move towards making sure we truly can do recovery and in a orchestrated way, in a simple way. And I see more of that evolving, right? How do we integrate into the security landscape and security tools, the centralized NOC that customers are using to understand their security status? And then how do we link into the BCP tools, the BCDR tools to drive that recovery end to end, particularly now as a service, right? Shifting to an as a service model, either directly, offering directly through ourselves or through partners in terms of driving that as a service. Because again, organizations are moving away from spending resource themselves directly. They're typically looking to buy as a service and buy it as, shift from CapEx to OpEx in terms of how they're buying as well.
Simon, earlier days, the management, especially the CFOs, were not so convinced about DR sites. They were not so convinced about why should have replication many places. Now, gradually, I'm listening to friends in CIO community, CISO community, that DR is much more relevant, much more prioritized act for the IT department or the CFOs, the finance department, than the primary sites. Reason being, anything happens to the primary sites, so DR is the savior. Your billion-dollar transactions are happening. So for days, weeks, they are working from DR.
Yes.
Because the primary is going down.
Right.
Now, this is a change in the mindset, if I'm not wrong. So the CFOs, the board is also understanding these things.
Yes. Yeah, well, I think, I think unfortunately, we've had to go through some pretty horrendous examples of organizations not having their services available. For CIOs to really realize that the time is now that no longer it's not going to happen to me. I have to have a readiness response. So I think part of it is, the disaster cases, and it's not so much even, we serve very much focus on the SMB and SME space. And a disaster event, yes, it can be a going out of business event because of the cost. But more for larger organizations, it's a massive reputational cost. I mean, you look at the recent CrowdStrike outages caused, that took down healthcare and travel booking systems for days for organizations. So I think one, it's the exposure to those events themselves. And two, I think, look, technology has moved on in making DR much more possible. You don't have to build a colo. You don't have to build a physical location. You can leverage the cloud services. And there are there's great partners globally in the large scale cloud service providers, the AWS, the Azure, the Googles, but there's also great local variants, right? Like we're working with a company called Digibox, for example, in India that provides that you can have the cloud benefit, but have it truly in the local country, right? Providing for the specific data privacy and regulations. And then I think the third piece is where people are starting with cloud is how do they make that a mutable, safe copy of the data for things like ransomware recovery, right? So I think there's an easy way to kind of onboard as opposed to before customers were maybe using tape, right? And that isn't as accessible as that being available online itself through the cloud.
Excellent, Simon. Simon, coming to your product, there is a good coverage of backup exec in the customer place. How is it relevant? What does it do to the business?
Yeah. So I think backup exec is very relevant in this shift we're seeing of as IT is shifting to more cloud, more SaaS, there's different, typically in most organizations, there's different new owners coming on board, the cloud experts, the cloud architects, the SaaS application owners, and they need a backup solution for them. But they're typically not the traditional data protection owners, right? They're typically not the typical backup admins. And I think backup has to start to embrace that it's not about having a specialist club, right? No longer, because again of the cost pressures, can organizations afford data protection specialists. They need the IT generalists to be skilled in data protection, the cloud architects, the new IT generalists. So that's where backup exec plays a role. We provide simple, secure, unified and very comprehensive protection. It's a single price and license, single install package, single console in terms of management. If you want to protect M365, if you want to protect Exchange, you want to protect Windows, you want to protect Oracle, you want to protect any VM type that you like, you can do it through one product. There's not separate products you have to buy for each of those things, right? Unlike any other product in the market, there is no separate thing that you need to buy. So we make it very easy and simple to purchase, to run, to deploy and use, which is very relevant to, again, we're really trying to get the IT generalists to embrace that data protection is part of their job. It's no longer a specialist club where it's only really available to those data protection specialists who have really spent years in the silo away from the rest of the IT organization.
So it starts from very small kind of requirement to all the way to the very large thousands of users or millions
Absolutely.
of users.
Yeah, I mean, we serve multiple types of customers. So we serve individual, individual store. You might be an individual. You might be an individual store where you've got a small, self-founded business.
The lawyers.
Yeah, exactly.
Doctors.
Right. So small individual, literally to large-scale deployments across many sites. We have people that deploy backup exec on cruise ships to protect the data as they're out at sea and those kind of things as well. So again, it distributed systems through to centralized management as well.
Okay, excellent. Now coming to your customer space, you must be listening to the challenges that the customers are facing from the BCP point of view, from the backup point of view, even for that matter, from any technology point of view. What are the key concerns that you are hearing from them, and what are the mitigation plan that you are giving to them?
Yeah. So I think number one, it's how do they get how do they really meet their recovery plans, right? I think recovery, as I mentioned earlier, becoming the focus rather than do they have a backup solution. I think pretty much every organization has had some form of backup tool in the past. What hasn't really happened is, have they ever truly tested the recovery should they need to? Now CIOs are much more asking their IT teams, one, do we have backup? But more importantly, how quickly could we recover if we had that disaster event itself? So that's really putting focus on really fire drilling and being able to provide regular tests and proof that we can recover if we're hit by a ransomware attack or some other piece. So that I think it's the visibility. I mean, ultimately, CIOs are now asking the question of, what do we really have in place? Do we have the right coverage? Do we have the right policies? And then that's leading to other conversations around, well, is that really quick enough to recover that? Like their mainline CRM systems. If we're going to take 2 days to get that recovered? Is there better, more efficient ways that we drive that recovery? So I think really recovery and proof of that and being able to audit that recovery, that's a big topic right now, right? And how do we then modernize from there as we go through that testing and auditing process?
Okay, if I can rephrase this question again, although you answered that this one very nicely, what are the typical, wrong things the CIOs are doing?
Well, I think one, assuming that they have backup in place, right, and not basically going through that. I think again that's changing, but there was a lot where we'd often ask the question of, okay, do you have a backup solution, and they would say yes. The missing question was, do you have the confidence you could recover for your organization within a day, within 48 hours, if a disaster happened? And that's often where the CIO would look at us and go, I honestly don't know. We've never tested what we had in place as a backup tool. So I think fundamentally not asking the questions and assuming that the IT teams have got it covered because they have a backup tool. And do they have the proof of that? I mean, I think that's fundamental. I think then the second is, are they leveraging the evolution in technology, moving to managed services, moving to as a service to basically modernize that stack? Because often it's been a legacy IT stack that's been built on over time, right? And there's a lot of opportunity to simplify we see within the organizations.
Now coming to Backup Exec again, what are the competitive advantages? How is it stacked up against the competition?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of really key ones. One I already mentioned, which is it is truly a very simplified implementation for backup recovery. So again, it's a single console, single solution, single management plane, everything on a single platform through one single license. You can buy it under either as an instance or a capacity basis. There is no other solution in market that's like that. So again, if you wanted to go to market and buy any other product, if you were protecting, say, your virtual servers separately to your need and protect your M365 SaaS applications, from Backup Exec, you just buy one thing. Everyone else, you're buying 2 or 3 different products to basically be able to do that. So it's simplification. Channel loves it, right? Very simple to buy and offer that value prop to customers. The second is the inbuilt ransomware resilience and cybersecurity capabilities. We've never had a penetrated attack with Backup Exec, unlike a number of the competitive players. And there have been ransomware attacks that are deliberately designed to target backup software and backup storage, because obviously ransomware attackers want to remove backup as the recovery method, and they want you to pay that ransom overall. So a depth of malware scanning, integrated immutability capability. And then look, I think the biggest thing I would say in terms of the track record of Backup Exec is that ability for us to now protect all the way from your physical servers to your large scale. And again, you can do it in a very decentralized manner or centralized management. So again, that flexibility of deployment model is very critical as we scale from very small organizations to very large organizations. And again, the nice thing about Backup Exec is our business is truly global, right? Across the 3 major geos, so APJ, EMEA and Americas, our business is pretty evenly split across those, right? We're truly a global player in terms of being able to solve our customers' needs.
Are you looking at Asia Pacific or Middle East, particularly these days, that to step up your activities?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, we've had a massive investment in India. We have a very large scale presence in the Middle East as well in terms of the business. So, in fact, for Backup Exec, the largest part of our team is here in India. And we very much support it's a key growth area in terms of driving the APJ region in particular for us moving forwards, and hence why I spend a lot of time here as well in terms of helping drive that business.
Okay, it's a 100% channel business.
Yeah, pretty much 99% plus. There is a few larger customers that choose to not be, but we're very, very, very tied at the hip with the channel.
All right. Simon, you can see that the market is moving from service-led business, consumption also from the large organization point of view. They prefer they're not keeping their data in their data center. They don't have these days. They have moved their workload to the cloud data centers or the co-locations data centers. Similarly, other services also are they are trying to consume as service. What other applications they are trying to consume as service. So in this line, I can see, in US, the community of MSPs have actually been matured. Whereas in other places, MSPs are evolving. How do you see that landscape changing?
Yeah, I think it differs from smaller organizations to larger organizations. I see a lot of smaller organizations, the typical reseller community that has been serving those smaller organizations is moving more to a small MSP to serve them and offer the capabilities as a service. In larger organizations, it's still very much a hybrid approach. So yes, they may have moved to things like as a service technologies like Microsoft 365. And in that, they're buying as a service solutions for backup recovery, disaster recovery, but still melded with their on-prem capabilities or private cloud capabilities for their virtual protection or physical protection. So I think we're still in an evolution. I very much see that hybrid deployments are here to stay. And really, how do we provide unified management, unified auditing, policy, compliance across those is critical. And that's a broader value prop that we offer as Arctera, not just within backup exec, is how do you stay compliant and trust your data, no matter whether you're starting to deploy as a service in cloud, or you've still got a lot of on-premise deployment or private cloud deployment as well.
You are also seeing kind of shift from the partner's point of view, from being the SIs or value-added resellers to the jumping into the bandwagon of MSPs.
Correct. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Again, particularly in serving that small and medium-sized customers that are more moving towards those deployment models and really trying to move away from, ultimately backup recovery is not the end customer. That's not their core business, right? They're a lawyer or a banker or a pharmaceutical agent or whatever. And they want to concentrate on that business and look to kind of outsource those additional IT to experts that can deliver it for them.
All right. Now, whenever we discuss, we always discuss about the large and mid-tier organizations.
Yes.
There are millions of bottom layer, that's SMEs. Right. Those organizations, they do not have that structure within their organization to what technology needs they have. They know what to do. What should be there at the back end. They do not know. Second, cybersecurity is a great challenge for them.
Right.
So, what needs to be done? What they should be doing rightly, so that their growth is not hampered.
Yeah. So I think I would say a couple of things. So one, really appreciate the basics of where the threat landscape is from a cybersecurity and backup perspective. So I think one, making sure that they do have that recovery capability in place, whether that's they choose to deploy themselves or through a partner. And I think the critical piece is leverage the channel, right? They are not going to want to be, they shouldn't be paying experts themselves on their payroll around these kind of disciplines. But there are great partners out there in the SME channel that can really serve them and bring together the great capabilities that backup exec has with security tools, with storage infrastructure, with cloud infrastructure. I mean, that's why that value add and really understanding how these products, these from different vendors, come together as a true solution and really serve those SME customers. That's really the critical value add that the channel brings and why we partner so closely with them. And we are doing more in terms of trying to look and work with the channel to build solution-oriented integrated packages around storage, around security, around cloud, in terms of helping really then serve those end customers.
When you are referred to channels for 2025, what are your plans for the channel and development? Any changes in your core
well, I think
programs?
There is a big change within Arctera. I mean, really, the aim of forming Arctera from Veritas is really putting focus on these legendary products that we've had around data protection, data resiliency, and data compliance, and moving away from a model where we had a general sales force and a general channel that was focused on selling all products across the globe, to now we'll have a sales force organized by data protection, focused only on data protection, a separate sales force focused on data resilience, and separately on data compliance. So really we want to go build a channel organization around data protection with partners that really love data protection and want to lean into the business with us, right? And we'll be very much oriented our channel programs to drive that. So for example, very soon we'll be launching new incentives to really drive backup exec sales into that SME space in particular. And then we're also looking at local partnerships in terms of driving cloud there as well.
So there is no change after the company got demerged and acquired by another company, that's Arctera. There is no change then. That rather,
No, it's
you'll
just
be adding on
it's
more
just
things.
bringing more focus really on
Sorry.
really we've always been reliant as Veritas on a great channel that brings expertise in the data management space, and we want to ultimately continue to make sure that we drive that data management and data focus with our existing channel partners, and we want partners to really lean in more, even more so in terms of driving data protection and how do we again bring that integrated solution-led selling to those SMB and SME customers.
Simon, if I am putting myself in the shoes of a channel partners, I'm thinking myself moving away from a very large brand that's Veritas to Arctera. So there is definitely a concern in my mind. What is going to happen, whether the company board or company decision making will take care of my interest or not? What will be the key messaging for the partners?
So I think number one, from a stability of the company, the way we formed Arctera, Arctera already represents 70% of the Fortune 500 in terms of our customer base, and we are already a profitable company, right? The way we've set up the company is it's already a growing and profitable company. So there should be absolutely no concerns around the stability of Arctera in terms of moving forwards from a financial perspective. Again, we serve a very large install base, 70% of the Fortune 500, and again, we're already profitable and growing revenue out the gate. The key is what we are doing is bringing more focus to partner. We have a lot of partners that have focused not just with Veritas, but in particular with Backup Exec, with InfoScale, with our Enterprise Vault and data compliance product lines. Those partners are going to love us even more with Arctera because we're focusing in on those businesses and want to help them drive more of their success of growing with those businesses moving forwards.
Excellent, Simon, for this piece of assurance.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the channel partners. Now, what's going to be your product roadmap for 24-25?
Yeah, so we're focusing kind of three key areas. One is how do we continue to make it very simple to deliver data protection and recovery for our customers, again, through channel partners. And that really encompasses areas like, one, continuing to revolutionize and simplify the actual pricing and licensing models, the packaging, make it very simple and easy to buy the product through things like our channel marketplaces, and then also simplifying the user experience. And again, around that integration, in particular around SaaS. Continuing to build out our ransomware resilience capabilities, working with key partners around immutable storage for the cloud is a key part of that, as well as enhancing our malware technologies and capabilities. And then thirdly, we see the big growth area around backup for customers, and where there is a big unserved need is that integrated SaaS application support. So we've already introduced M365. We're looking at Enter ID. We're looking at new applications in that SaaS space, because typically a lot of organizations have moved to SaaS and don't realize the SaaS provider does not guarantee or provide any assurance of backup and recovery for you. So you still need a third party in providing that recovery. So again, that's a big area of doubling down as we move into next year.
Excellent. Before we step out, if I can ask you something very personal, what do you do beside your work? I know that you are very workaholic, but still then you must be getting time, some, pastime, you go, surfing or do something or other.
Yeah, not quite a surfer, but no. So I have great 3 kids at home in the US. So I spend a lot of time with them. And one of the passions that I've got into through my kids is rugby. So I'm a certified rugby coach, world rugby coach. I've coached for 10 plus years now, all the way from minis. I joined with my kids when they were 6 years old. Now my kid is playing rugby in college. Or my eldest, and my other son also still plays. So I've coached at high school and college levels now as well. So I spend a lot of time coaching both women's and men's rugby as well. I love it. I think the thing I love about rugby and why I also love Arctera is it's a very team-oriented sport, right? It's a family in terms of how we operate together, right? We all, on the pitch, we all fight right. But after
Absolutely.
pitch, we all shake hands and celebrate and socialize together. And I can go anywhere in the world and be welcomed by people that play in the same community. So, I think, again, yes, it's a sport. It's always great to be physical. But more importantly, it's a community, right, that really welcomes me in wherever I am in the world. So I've always loved rugby. I played it as a kid and got back into it through my kids, and now able to pass that joy on to other kids. And the thing I'm most proud of recently is last year at the high school team I coach. We won. We had an unbeaten season. We won, but more importantly, I was able to help 10 of those kids get places at colleges in rugby, to play rugby and go to college and get part scholarships and able to further their education, which was massively rewarding to me.
You are truly a backup man. You have got your backup plan in your life.
I am,
That's
absolutely.
Really. Thank you, Simon, for sparing so much of time from your busy schedule and speaking to CIOTV.
Very welcome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.